Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you know as soon as we put new videos up. We have obviously interviews going up daily, but we have sometimes 2-3 times a day, and every story, every memory, every interview is amazing. So don't want you to miss any content. So make sure you're notified as soon as you put stuff on. Today's guest is he played 175 times for the club across an 8-year period. He came through the youth academy. For those of you who watched the Tony Carr interview the other day, he was in Tony's first batch of kids as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's Paul Brush. Hi, Paul. How you doing, man?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
I know everyone says it, but how's lockdown treating you? I hate that question, but everyone wants to know.
I learned to do gardening. Not bad. The vegetables haven't really grown that much, but the plants have. Alvin Martin told me that makes you old if you do gardening, but I'm better at that than DIY.
Yeah.
It's just, it seems a lot longer than 3 months.
It does.
And maybe with some sport to watch now, it's a starter of things getting a little bit better. But a long time not to see. We've got 3 grandchildren, 4, 3 and 1. And the last couple of weekends have been so much better than the previous 10 because we've had time in the garden and they're kicking a ball around and stuff. And that's been really uplifting. But you just imagine from where I was brought up and nearby how difficult for people to get by these last 3 months in, to say, the area, Canning Town, Plaistow and areas where I was brought up must so much more difficult than walking around with my dog here in Rayleigh.
Exactly. And you're not far from the seaside either, so you know it's
No.
So it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I know. I mean, we moved my mother-in-law into my house about 3 months ago, and so she only lives down the road anyway. But we moved her in, and she's been a godsend because she's obviously got to work and stuff, and homeschool as well. It's like, new appreciation for teachers, that's sure. But you're right, football is coming. It's coming back, and I can't wait. I've got to go there over the week. I've got to go there on Friday for a test day to make sure all the speakers work and everything, because nothing's been played in the London Stadium for.
Sure, yeah.
So we've got to make sure it all works, and so we'll see what happens. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a bit like the World Cup, isn't it? There's going to be loads of games happening all the time. It's going to be really exciting. And
just looking at and more than one game in one day and different times and different divisions. Pleased to know that that's back, and a little bit of a forerunner. Sort of watched a bit of golf at the weekend off the TV and stuff, and so it'll be good to get something started. But it's just, to say, strange times, right down to the fact this is my month off, as it were, and I should be in Portugal. And when it's a nice day here, you can make out.
You can make out, I put the paddling board at the back, the Costa del Gidia Park, the Costa del Hornchurch, But no, I know what you mean. I was interviewing Macca the other day, and he was going to be in Cyprus instead of talking to me, but he was still playing his golf and stuff, so he's all right. I know it's funny, isn't it? You see the sports, how they're trying to do it. Like horse racing's not too bad. I've seen that on telly. Snooker's all right, and obviously the golf. But it's going to be weird, I think, getting the Premier League back. But we'll see.
Then when I'm listening to about, and they're saying, you can have a crowd noise and you can do this and that, and it's like, it's different. It's different. So it's a big reminder the other week about the Ghost game in 1980 at Upton Park in the Winners' Cup.
Yes.
That's very strong in the memory, being there in a September evening, and there was 200 people in the ground, and you could hear noises from the press box. Found the programme a few weeks ago, and that was obviously like a forerunner. I was saying to my son, this is what, we had a forerunner of whatever 40 years later is what everybody's going to be doing. Yeah.
Crazy.
The dog's getting fed.
So. I know, well, the dog's happy. And at least dog gets a lot of walking. That's one thing, isn't it? Dogs, like my dog just like looks at me now in the morning. He's like, I've had enough
No,
of you.
he's
When do you
quiet.
get back?
He's quiet unless he's got a chance of food.
Oh,
And
bless
he
him.
barks until it's right in front of him.
Oh, funny. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? You were right. You were the forerunners of the close the ghost game, and
And you played long time ago. You played reserve games. You come back from injury, or you weren't in the team, and there was one sub or two subs or whatever. You played midweek, and you played at the main grounds most of the time, and they were virtually empty.
Yeah.
So you got more used to that now. And I look at a lot of reserve games. They play a few, but a lot of them are played at, like West Ham playing at Dagenham, and Tottenham are playing at Stevenage, and Arsenal playing at Boreham Wood. But to play in your own surroundings, that advantage, that home advantage, is very different. But you used to play those sort of games then, and now it's not a thing that. One of the changes in football is that players don't think they need to play games to get fit, which I'm sure people of my era still find difficult to get a head round.
Yeah.
To get in a rhythm, you need to play matches, whatever level it is. But if players are not in the team, they'd rather train and be treated the same as the starters.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the way of most clubs now.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, we do play. We play 3 or 4 games of the under-23s at London Stadium, and you're right, it's about 200. So I'm used to having a crowd of 200, but there'll be no one in the crowd. It's like there'll be no one. They're covering all the seats, all the lower tier seats. Because that's one thing I don't like about the Bundesliga is you watch it, and because you can see empty seats, and there's something a bit weird about that, isn't it? So they're trying to cover that up. I think every Premier League club's doing that as well, like covering up the bottom tier, so it's not so obvious, but everyone knows. But you know what I mean. And you said the crowd noise being piped in and on the broadcasters, and no, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think on the West Ham front, I think we'll do all right actually. A bit, not the pressure of being in a relegation battle. You haven't got the fans on your back, so to speak, if things don't work. And who knows? But home advantage means bugger all. We know that now. Looking at that Bundesliga again, the home wins is something like 25%, I think, of all games is a home win now, which is ridiculous when you see. So it's going to be interesting. Stuff's going to be thrown up. There's been more teams dragged into that relegation. Oh, bless him. And so I think it's going to be good fun. He said he's like, look.
Harry, do you want to be in this?
Harry, who would you pick in goal? Look at his face.
Harry, what do you want to do? Are you all right? Do you mind? Do you go over there? Yeah, no, Harry, come on.
It's brilliant. I'm going to do a new segment called Players and Their Dogs. We had Frank's dog. He's got some massive Doberman who was like literally his height when he walked in. It was mental. Absolutely winner. I love it.
Yeah, I can rest this cover on the back of him, and he's much more happy doing that than actually me getting to move him.
I love it.
Right, I'm glad we're not doing the photo now.
Nah, that'd be silly. It's all fun games. All fun and games. So obviously, you came from the, as you said, where you came from around the area. Was West Ham always your club from a young age?
Yeah. I mean, I went when I was 6. My uncle took me because my dad wasn't sure, but then within a few months, he was taking me. So my dad was a West Ham supporter. He went to Cup Cup, 65 and that. So he was, him and all his mates were mad supporters. They went to Plaistow Grammar.
Yeah.
So, whatever, what's that? 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the ground at the most.
Yeah.
So they played when I was younger on Saturdays. But if they weren't playing, I would go. And then as it got a few years down the line, my dad used to take me to the home games. We didn't really go to away games. We used to go to home games and walk there from Canning Town with a wooden fishing stool that folded up that I carried. So I used to walk from Plaistow, Sewer Bank, Greengate, down and go in the South Bank and be up against the wall in the corner of the West Stand and so I had the wall protecting on my shoulder, and you were halfway up, which was great, other than you couldn't see the bottom half of the goal at the South Bank. So I was there when Brian Diaz scored his 5 goals in whatever it was, 15 minutes or whatever. I never saw any of them hit the back of the net. I see him swing his leg, but from that angle and from where I was, I didn't see it. And then, when I was 14 and 15 and training at Upton Park in Chadwell Heath and that, then, you got a couple of tickets and you ended up in the stands. We did have a while in just behind the dugout, and that seemed so low down. Obviously, your head was at pitch height.
Yeah.
I can remember being a kid there. I can remember being there the day Paul Reaney broke his leg for Leeds, and just that strange noise of knowing something happened, but not quite. You're a little kid and you don't really know what that was.
Yeah.
My uncle took me to the first game, which I believe was an FA Cup tie in the 64-65 season when West Ham won the Cup. And then from then onwards, it was all I really wanted to do from a very young age was to play. And then from before I would have been 8 or 9, I stopped sort of. I watched Bobby Moore and I watched West Ham. I didn't watch West Ham and I watched Bobby Moore. It was the other way around if he was playing. So I was so uplifted the Sunday before last just to see the World Cup final again.
Of course,
and just see how fantastic he played. And I've read books and different things, and I was lucky enough to meet him. But just watching him, and because all the books always said about the bigger the game, the better he played, and just watching the cup final and seeing how well he did. But just silly mannerisms. When he walked out the tunnel at Upton Park, he didn't carry the ball in his hand. He carried it between his forearm and his hip.
Yeah.
So when you watch him coming down the tunnel and all those things, and there's pictures of me doing that for Newham, and I played for Newham when I was 9, 10 with Alan Kirbysley, and like if I was captain, and there's pictures of me walking out these black and white photos with the ball stuck between my forearm and my hip.
Amazing.
And things like his lack of celebration after a goal, concentrating on the next thing. And so there's very few, when I did play, very, very few times anyone's ever seen me in a celebratory. I was as many times me celebrating as Pikey wasn't. It's just one of those things. Right now I've got to concentrate. We're winning now. But my dad was a pessimist, and we used to go to West Ham, and he used to get his Percy Dalton peanuts, and I used to be standing there with him. And if West Ham scored really early, he used to go, "Oh no, we've got 85 minutes to hold out." It was. It took me a long time to not be like him.
It's so true. It's so true. That doesn't matter what age group it is. Happened to me. I remember my first game was like early 90s, and West Ham conceded after about 30 seconds. And my granddad, God his soul, turned to me and went, "That's it. Get used to it. You've got a lifetime." And I didn't believe him, but obviously I do now. But how funny. How funny. And obviously, as you said, you and Curbs, obviously, you started training with the club, and obviously we know that from Tony's interview that you were his first batch, really, his first academy recruits, or no, we were playing popular for Popular Boys under 16s.
Yeah, we went out we played for Newham when it was the first year of East Ham and West Ham becoming Newham.
Yeah.
And so so I lived in Canning Town, and Kirby lived just behind, slightly near West Ham Station. So we bumped into each other when we were like 6 or 7, but it was under 11s, and we were probably only 8, I think, when we first went to the trials. And like we did all right, but we weren't the best player. The best player was this black lad called Ozzy Tutu, who unfortunately went off the rails a little bit and didn't have parental backing when he was 16 when he went to Orient.
Yeah.
But for between 9 and 13, 14, he was an outstanding forward. And then because we had a decent side around us, we were London and Essex champions quite a lot.
Right.
And so when we were 11, Chelsea came round to Kirby and then to my parents about going training with them. And my parents didn't drive. And so my dad said, like, there's no way you can get over there unless it was school holidays. And whether it wasn't a question that you asked, but fortunately, within a couple of days, Wally St Pierre came round from West Ham. So another one of those legendary figures, if you're a historian, because you knew that from Bobby Moore and all those other players then, but also the players that came from around the corner to where we live, because John and Clive Charles live around the corner as well. So Wally St Pierre came round, and that was the first incident of Paul go upstairs or go somewhere. And so they had a chat with my parents, and I wasn't in there. So that was at 11, and I didn't know. And then that carried on. And then when I was 16, and at Upton Park, and Ron Greenwood took my parents in to offer an apprenticeship, I wasn't allowed in that meeting either. So you found out things secondhand. The modern way of being involved in everything, it wasn't there. But we got asked to go training, and the first training session that we could go to was at Pretoria School, which was their annex. I used to kick a ball against. It was about 30 yards away from me. So the annex was a few hundred yards, and probably 100 yards more for Curbs. And we went. Jeff Pike was there. Was a year older than us, and we were the youngest then. Far different from the ridiculous young age some people are there now. So we were 11, and then you had this sports hall. They had a modern sports hall at Pretoria that had become Eastleigh, I think, or was about to become Eastleigh. And then we trained at Upton Park on the following Tuesday, under the stands, up against the open toilets, kicking the ball against the wall. And then you played a ridiculous game on the forecourt of about 25 a side with about 5 different age groups or something so different. And then you went to Chapel Heath in the holidays for games. And, those type of things you were doing off your own back, 2 or 3 buses or whatever. And so, when you were there in the holidays, Chapel Heath wasn't that big, and you could see where the seniors were, but you didn't, you hadn't really trained with anybody like that when you was a school kid. But you were doing between representing Newham and Essex. Essex was all right because Glenn Hoddle was in the team, and we had a few decent players. And then Curbs, I got injured under 16, under 15 English Schools Shield, because we should have won that. Our team was good enough. But we all had a bad time that day. We lost at Clapton. We played at Clapton and lost. But Curbs got in the England team, and I went and watched him play as a schoolboy. And then we joined together, 74. And you went from being a supporter and a youngster where everything, would you like any tickets? How are you? How's your parents? Yeah. To apprentices doing jobs. And we went before we started that summer and said, we've come in to see about our training kit, or see, and we're thinking, well, we surely we can sort of half choose what fits us. And you just got, well, that's number 33 and that's number 37, choose one each, and one size fits all. And, it was different, and you trained at Chapel Heath, and you went there on the minibus, and you came back and did your jobs, and you realised that players trained the following day in the same gear that they'd played in. You just hung it up in the dryers and let's come back and fold it up. And then you used to go around Casataris and remember that, hey, Bobby Moore used to sit upstairs with Noel Campbell and other people, and that had a little, that had a ring to it to say you were going around to Casataris, you know. And then we got given a luncheon voucher, which was 25p in 1974, £6 a week and £2 for your parents, and 25p a day. And over the period of being an apprentice, if anyone ever got hold of the luncheon voucher, they were like serrated tickets almost. Then sometimes you went round Casataris with two. And boy, you could have some food for 50p in them days. And we tried some concoctions, and we had sort of desserts mixed in, and these huge bowls of desserts every now and then. But that was you did your chores and you trained. But it, and also from the school's football, how many from the Newham team? I think 3 others got apprentices at West Ham. 3 got Orient. 1 got Chelsea. 1 got Coventry. We're in the top division. 2 got Coventry. So it was also a reminder that we should have been English schools champions with that quality of players that we had. But a lot of players got a start, if you like. And unfortunately, a lot of them finished early. And the boy that I was the most friendly with at school, who was in my school, a boy called Lewis Murphy, who lived quite close to the Green Gate. So he was a really good defender. In the summer before we started, there was a long gap. We were different this year. We went to Beckton, where there was 5-a-side pitches, try and play some football. And we didn't know, and they'd sprayed the grass with some insecticide sort of stuff, whatever. He did a slide tackle, and eventually his knee got infected. So we start whenever it was, almost July, August, and he can't start. And he missed the first 5 weeks, and he didn't really then be totally different now with the amount of staff. He didn't do anything, and then joined in after 5 weeks and twisted his knee first day. And he did it once more, and he never played. And that was a reminder as a kid that, you know, sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get opportunities, sometimes it doesn't. Things are going well, and then you can pick up an injury. Sometimes the results matter more than how you play, whether you stay in the team or not. But that was a big reminder to me, and that, you know, you can have all the dedication and determination, but if you can't, you can't. So that was. We joined in 74, and then as West Ham were having the cup success in 75, then the youth team were, and, you know, we made the youth cup final in the first year. But when I joined, there was about 8 apprentices from the year before, including Jeff Pike, and it wasn't about, you didn't get taken on because you was at a position. You got took on because they thought you could be a footballer. Always a reminder through my coaching career is referring back to myself at different times in my career when circumstances, opportunities, positionally, not to put people in a box too much. So there was 16 players, and there was 7 or 8 midfield players out of the 16. So it was lopsided if you wanted to look at people's natural positions. And so then we all got to get in the team. you sort of, and all you got moved around, and I ended up playing up front in the youth team and scoring, and staying there for 18 months.
Oh wow!
So that was different, and I felt like I was a chaser rather than a creative forward.
Yeah.
But it went all right, and the youth cup run got us into the finals, and the Southern Junior, we did a remarkable 4-1 victory over Chelsea in a second leg at Upton Park, to have a couple of big games in that. And it was only the final where we were poor and Ipswich were very good that we got smashed over 2 legs. But that was the start of playing, but I'm not playing in my best position.
Yeah.
But you're playing.
Yes.
So I didn't really have negativity about it. But the following season, when I'm an older apprentice at 17, you realise, right, if I'm ever going to play midfield, I've got to play now.
Yeah.
And I think Curbs had probably moved up to playing the next level around that time. And so in October 75, I played in the youth team at QPR in the morning in midfield. And someone told me the other week that I scored or whatever. But and in that afternoon, the reserves were playing as well. So that was a normal Saturday for a reserve team to play. But I was sub for the reserves in the afternoon at Crystal Palace. So I got driven from QPR to Crystal Palace at lunchtime, and I'm sub for the reserves. After half an hour, the left back John Dumphy, who's 19, he gets injured. So they're looking at me, well, you better go on. And I'm thinking, shit, I played this morning. And I've been in the car and whatever. And so, well, you're left-footed, just go and play left back. It's just in front of us in the dugout. We'll help you.
Yeah.
So I played there till half-time. They went, you're all right. Bill Lansdowne was in charge. I've got a lot to thank Bill Lansdowne for. Sure. He really did a lot. He really pushed me, and he probably, he really manoeuvred older players out of my way over a 2-year period to give me the experience of playing, where he could have just played me anywhere on the pitch. Because reserve was very much a group of players. Now that'll be a team when you get there in the dressing room. So I played in the second half, and it went all right. And I thought, well, I quite like the ball coming, the game being in front of me rather than with my back to the game, which I'd had us playing up front, really. Of course. So that was a Saturday. On the Monday, the team goes up for a reserve game away at Plymouth on the Tuesday. So the game was on the Wednesday. You travelled on Tuesday. It was an overnight sleeper. I never knew anything about them sort of things. And Billy Bonds is coming back from injury, and I'm a quiet kid, and I never really spoke to Bill,
Yeah.
And I ended up playing next to him, thinking, wow. I used to be on the terraces watching, and now I'm playing next to him. And that was my debut in October 75, playing as a defender. And then gradually Bill Lansdowne gave me games ahead of people like Alan Wooler, who were young professionals, to get me more experience. So I've got a lot to be thankful for. But just on that, the modern way of football with sports science and worry about how many minutes you played and whatever, I'd say I played and gone, and then I played another hour. And in a way, I was used to it, because you used to play Saturday morning for your school or the district, and then go and play on a Sunday. So under 16, and I'm playing with Curb with Poplar Boys under Tony Carr before proper centres of excellence started up. So we played together on a Sunday to get together as young players that trained at West Ham. Yeah, we'd play a Sunday morning, but we'd all played on Saturday. And no one really thought anything more of that, even if you had a school game on the Monday or the Tuesday. But nowadays, this thing of, can't play 2 games in 3 days and stuff like that is, it's modern thought, but you didn't have that, you didn't have that type of thing going on back then.
No, not at all. And obviously all that grafting, all those reserved as youth team and going through, and you end up playing 175 first team games for the club. That's an amazing
185.
185. Oh, sorry, get me right.
I'm very protective.
No, definitely 185.
We used to have Wikipedia used to have something about 153. 153 was league games.
League games, they always have league games.
Say that. I know I should have played more, so I say that with a bit of meaning, because I played a lot. I played a lot of games. I played more games before I was 22 or 23 than I did between I was 23 and 27. Yeah. So I know I should have played more, but in those days of the number of times I was sub when there was 1 or 2 subs and didn't get on, I could probably hold the record for not going on, rather than actually that would have got you appearances over 200, which, in a way, when you see people, whether unsung people, if you like Steve Potts playing hundreds of games or whatever. I was sitting there yesterday, knowing I was going to speak to you, thinking, if I added up Palace 81 games, Southend, Palace was 51, sorry, Southend was 81. I played 2 years at Enfield when they were top non-league club, and then I played at Chelmsford, and I played at Haybridge, and I played at, I think I might have got close to 500, but I wish it had been more at West Ham, but perhaps that makes particular games better memories. I don't know, but I'm sort of protective of
definitely
when someone says, "Oh, you didn't play," because I felt for lots of different reasons I could have played more, and some of that was injury, some of that was non-selection, some of that the team kept winning. The year that got promoted back to the Premiership in 82 was I played at 81, wasn't
81,
it?
82,
I played at the start. I played at the start, and then I got arrested for a League Cup tie away at Burnley, and the team won 5-0, and the team stayed the same. And it was like, you're arrested, but I didn't get back in.
Yeah,
and I didn't play much before Christmas there. And so, as I say, I always feel that sometimes it's circumstances. It's not you weren't playing well enough, or someone else might have been, or a combination of things. There were times then, and as I say, when there's 1 or 2 subs, and then if you don't get on, you want to be starting, not sub, and then when you're sub, you want. There's just a nice feeling to tick a box that says an appearance.
I get that.
Appearance counts, and then what I do now. So I work at Tottenham looking after the loan players.
Yeah.
We have conversations about just playing. Your CV says you played 25 games in League Two this year. It don't say how many minutes you played.
Yeah.
You can find it out if you want to, if someone's that keen to. But your experience of playing, being in an adult dressing room, being in a different environment, looking at people that their bonus pays their mortgage.
Yeah.
And you're a young kid that's privileged and been training at a fantastic training base for 8 or 9 years. You're in the real world.
Yeah.
There's a big thing about playing. To me, as I say, a lot of the things that you try and pass on are those types of thing where your experiences, good and bad, help you to empathise and try and get something out of a youngster who's got a lot of time to be sitting there thinking.
Yeah.
His thinking time on loan is, do I really want to be at this club? Am I not wanted by my parent club? What's going to happen at the end of the season, or whether a manager changes while they're out on loan? Those type of things where you've had some experience of that.
Yes.
But the key thing is to say, hey, at the end of it, your CV says games. If you played games, someone's more interested in you for your next move or your next step than if you haven't played.
Yeah.
If you go there and somebody's a great lad and he never got on the pitch, then someone's going to be sceptical. But if you've played, you've got a starter, and I just want kids to have a career.
Yeah.
So if they can have a career that lasts 15 years, I don't get. I've said this often at the West Ham dinners, and Tony Gale says, "Oh, he's working at Tottenham." I've got two answers to that. One, 4 times I've tried to get a job at West Ham and not got one. And second is, I want to see boys reach their potential and have a chance of a football career.
Yeah, regardless.
I just want them to go and play. If you can go and play football for 15 years, then there's nothing better.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it must be for you. You must when you're seeing those boys and whether they end up playing for Tottenham or if they go to play for the club they loan, full time at the other clubs. Professionally, it must have a lot of pride. You take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, and when you get sometimes the boys that mainly I look after, I was coaching them when they were 14 or 15.
Yeah.
So for the last 8 years I've been at Tottenham. The last 4 years I've been doing this job with the loans. But I sort of know them, and then you're speaking to them on their own during the week. You're not they haven't got an answer.
Yeah,
because they think that's the right answer that I want to hear.
Yeah.
And so you see them play, you go and watch them training, and you speak to them, and you can have a depth with them. And as long as you've got their trust and they know that you want the best for them, then to see them successful. Ryan Fredericks I looked after when he was on loan at Middlesbrough, when he started off his league career, as it were. And Ryan was another one of those. He was a winger when I first went to Tottenham, when Tim Sherwood and when Harry was still manager, and Les Ferdinand and Tim Sherwood and Chris Ramsey were in charge of the 23s. And for some reason, they got a lot of players that got through at right back. Smith at Bournemouth, Nathan Byrne at Wigan, and Ryan Fredericks, and there's probably another one. But just, so you get to know them, and as I say, you want them to be successful. But just the association goes back a long while. When I first started coaching, Pat Holland got me to go to Orient as youth team coach because Pat was manager. Then Pat lost. I gave up a really good job at a private school with 13 weeks holiday and double 1.5 pay doing school holiday courses how I wanted to do them. And I gave that up for a lot less money to go to Orient, and then within a couple of months Pat lost his job, and then Tommy Taylor took over. So there was another link that sort of came in there. But while I was still youth team coach and I lived in Gidea Park, I used to pick up Richard Garcia from Michael Carrick's house down the road at Romford and take him into Orient when Gas was on loan there. So the loan and knowing a bit about it went from like 20 odd years ago, and myself, I'd gone on loan from West Ham in '85 to Palace. And that came at a good time for me. And also the loan from Palace to Southend a couple of years later, because I had 3 not good injuries at Palace in 3 seasons. Achilles thigh and knee, and while I was out the third time, they bought another fullback, and it was like, I've got to get out of here. Where could I go? Yeah, that the loan situation was something I knew a bit about, and I've seen players, and right down to when I was watching games for Reading in a scouting capacity when I wasn't full time anywhere. I saw Harry Kane play for Leyton Orient, and at certain players at other places, and you look at them and think, oh, they've got something, or that one's got something. I want, and I got a belief in experience and playing, and this season, this long season, seeing Dean Garner play for West Brom, thinking, hey, he's good. I didn't even know where he was from. But you think, hold on a minute, let's look him up. Hold on a minute. This boy's got a chance if he gets game time to help him make the right decisions. And in a way, you're letting people make their mistakes before they get to their parent team.
I get you. And obviously, going back to the West Ham days, as I said, lot of games, lot of players. We're not going to do an 11 today because there's lots of players that Paul doesn't want to miss out as well. Because I think these comparisons, Paul's got quite a big repertoire potentially. Obviously, as you said,
I've got a shirt. I've got a West Ham shirt, an away shirt, light blue shirt with signatures of people that I played with.
Yeah.
And there's about 50 names on it.
Wow.
2 people ruined it. Oh, not ruined it. John Vaughan, I got, because I used to go back and play charity games and different things. And used to bump into people. And so if you played in a game with them, as long as it was a West Ham game, you wore a West Ham shirt. You could have that. And John Vaughan's name's on it twice. And no one has put anything other than their name. And Paul Ince signed it upside down with best wishes. But when you look at, I've got all the 75 Cup final team, all the 1980 Cup final team, Martin Peters, and some others that I'd played with and that. So to make comparisons with different players in different eras, I'm not very good at. And it was just a privilege to play with some of them. I mean, I can say I played with Bobby Moore because I played 45 minutes in a charity game with him.
There you go. How many people can say that? You know what I mean? It's like
and I played with Martin Peters at Purfleet in a charity game, and so those things, personal and special in that way. And some of those players then. And some players that, as I say, the players that go on to do well that you might have had a link with, and then the players that you just knew were top people like Pop Robson. So when I thought, if you're ever going to put a team back, I don't know in modern formations what was Pop. He was a second striker. He was this, that. He was a hell of a good player and a good finisher.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first ones I thought of when you mentioned about doing a team, and I thought, well, how do you compare him to? Does he play with Jeff Hurst? Or I can remember Johnny Byrne playing for a little while when I was a little young kid, and how skillful he was.
Yeah.
It's very it's great that over a period of time West Ham have had those type of players. But when I was a kid, the West Ham supporters were almost happy to go home entertained. Yeah. So if Trevor Brooking and Alan Devonshire and people like that, they could lift people, and that became almost as important as the result. I think as crowds got bigger and the financial success of doing better, that's made that right down to the point now where I often think if a team wins, everyone goes home thinking that supporters go home thinking they played well.
No, I get that. I get that.
There used to be that expected to entertain thing that was about West Ham. And perhaps, you know, like a lot of modern things that went. The first year I played, 77, 78, and I managed to get in the team at the start of the season because there was a load of injuries. You know, football's so much about fortune and whatever.
Yeah, of course.
There must have been 6 injuries at the club, and they all must have been defenders, I think. I'd done all right pre-season, so I didn't feel cool, you know. This is a miracle because I'd played in pre-season tournament in Mallorca, and so I'd played a few games, but I played and, you know, suddenly you're playing with your heroes.
Yeah, of course.
And you're playing against people that you've known and watched.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Neighbour played for Norwich in the first game. I played against him. Keith Weller played in the second game. The third game was Man City, and Joe Royle played in a few other people. Then there was a League Cup tie away at Notts Forest. And Peter Wibb headed a goal and headed me in the back of the net with it. And I thought, I've got to grow up here. I can't just think, oh, some of these players are their pictures on my bedroom wall.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and then we won at Newcastle, 5th game, and I watched the highlights of that a couple of weeks ago. Somehow it was on something, and then I looked it up on YouTube. And St James's Park had an open end, one end, and it got windy there. And I think Tommy Cassidy scored from 40 yards from them. And it really, it went in like a bullet. But Pop Robson scored 2 goals that day, and we won 3-2. And that was a big step to play then. The next game, I think, was at home to Leeds. We might have, I can remember, I presume Lorimer and people like that were playing, and Joe Jordan elbowed me in the head and all them type of things. And I think we lost 1-0, but played well. Yeah. And I remember the crowd clapping us off.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah,
now, how much these days is that? And a similar thing is I read up on the ghost game of 1980 in the Cup Winners' Cup. Yeah. After the game with no supporters in 1980, so we got through the first round. I came on in that ghost game. As I'm in the background when David Cross scores. Everyone's wondered what I'm doing that far out of the pitch near him. And in the next game, we played away in Romania in a place called Timișoara. And they had that was the area where Romanian uprising came in with communism 20 years later. And then we got bottled and stuff out there. It was weird. And we got through that. And then there was Dynamo Tbilisi. So the first game at Upton Park, and I've never seen a player since probably more like Shavadza, and the midfield player that I forgot, I was trying to tell my son his name, bald-headed guy, he ran the game from midfield, and I was sub, and that's probably the one time I never wanted, what am I going to go on and do against these? We ain't got the ball. We're at home, and that was mentioned in a report that I read the other day, and also anybody that was there, that the West Ham crowd stayed and applauded Dynamo Tbilisi off.
Wow.
And it's still known for that. So they didn't all go home after an hour and worry about the train.
Yeah,
they were seeing something special.
Yeah.
And they stayed. And then what probably makes that more special for me was the return leg, and you're 4-1 down, and we got to go and play in Georgia. So we went, and you had to fly to Russia before you flew to Georgia.
Okay.
And we got to Russia, and there was a snowstorm, and we weren't allowed to go. And they put us in a hotel in the middle of the night for 5 hours, brought us back to the airport, made us stay there for a while. So the airport was a modern Moscow airport because they just built it for the Olympics. And I got stuck in the toilet, and I had to keep knocking on the door, and the soldier had to come and bash the door down to get me out. But in the stadium, which was really full of soldiers, I suppose,
sure.
Paul Allen got ill, and I went from sub to playing 5 minutes before kickoff. And as good a game as I've played, and unbelievably against that team, we won 1-0.
Yeah.
So as regards a single victory, everyone's going to go, I bet the cup semi-finals your thing and stuff like that. That game and the satisfaction of playing against a team of that quality.
Sure.
And I spoke to Rich Stewart about it last year, and we swapped shirts out there. But the shirt just is white with a D on it. It don't got no advert. It's got no big club badge. It's just got a D on it. But you knew that's the Dynamos of Leicester shirt.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So many. I mean, that's the thing. You play with so many amazing players, and there seems to be. And you're probably really good to ask this question, Paul. I'd say there's in the modern game. You say how the fans, it's all about winning the game, and the money is so big, and it's almost the same with the players in that there's no. Obviously we'll talk about the 80 FA Cup team, and obviously you were in the squad for that, and there's still a togetherness there. As you spoke to Ray the other last year about it. There seems to be that like real camaraderie and real characters, and throughout West Ham until the early 90s, to Ian Bishop and John Moncur and people like that. From then on, there doesn't seem to be any sort of like any characters in the game anymore. Do you know what I mean? Sort of, It's almost like so professional now.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, the characters weren't just like Bobby Moore and Jeff Hurst and
Sure.
people like that. There were people like Peter Grotier who would be looking to be mischievous or something. There was, there was a lot of outgoing and just a mixture of hijinks and people just pleased to be there and seeing each other, and maybe now the seriousness and the level of training takes some of that away. But the different things that situations that you got put in. I mean, we used to do pre-season training and running around Hainault, and stuff, and I wasn't any good at. I was a sprinter and long distance I couldn't do it very well at all. But there was a difference in training in the woods of Hainault, and then the modern thing of, and you got told if you get detached off the back, just shout, someone will come and find you. Thinking like, do you think you'd do that today with some bloke on the money or situation? Yeah. But there was, and the guy that they used to get an athlete from one of the Woodford or somewhere used to have green and white.
Woodford runners. Yes, Woodford runners.
And they used to clear off at some stupid pace, and you have to decide if you want to start with him and fall further back, or just start at the back because that's knew where you was going to end up. But that was, and then I can remember once running up towards around Epping, but on the roads, and there was no pavement. There's lorries going past.
No, it's not around. No, around the Epping New Road.
We were running up the hill, and I was close to John Radford. That's how poor a runner I was. And on one hot day, and we went past someone's front garden, and the guy had a hose pipe, and John Radford just collapsed on his lawn and said, "Soak me." And this guy just like soaked him, and he got up to start to run again on the way to Land's End, wasn't it? I think that run was the way. But yeah, there was different characters, and it was, as you say, it was a different thing. And when you say to people, you used to go back to get your tickets at Upton Park on a Friday, so you drive back from Chadwell Heath, and often used to go down East Ham High Street, look in the shops and whatever, and no one took any notice of you or anything like that. And those things are different. And I suppose there was a more local number of players, and the crowd's always like that. I mean, right down to Alvin's lodgings were at the other end of Canning Town. So Alvin, like when he was 16 to 19, was only like a few hundred yards away from me. You did. It was when I played early 80s. Ray Stewart was a foreigner because he was Scottish. And it's so different to what now is, and now is very much more to me West Ham's a stop on a player's journey on his train. So the
Mm.
train stops every now and then, and he gets off and plays there, and then he gets on and he goes somewhere else. And you know, the in amongst my programs when we moved last year, and I spent intending an hour, but a lot longer than that, looking at stuff.
Yeah.
There used to be loads of testimonial games.
I was talking to Gary.
Because people stayed 10, 12 years at the same place. So that wasn't just like West Ham testimonial games that, you know, Trevor's testimonial, whatever. I played in Barry Dane's testimonial at Tottenham, and played someone at Barnet, and someone, you know, there was a lot more people that stayed.
It's true. Very true. Very true. I mean, if you
and that got loyalty. It got, you know, lots of other things. You know, whether, you know, you'd probably think of Trevor's character that he probably would have stayed, but I'm sure, you know, if you look at the difference in what can be paid to players at certain clubs compared to others, you know, those situations to set you up for life are there for some players, but the you know, the difference and affinity and knowing the club and the club meaning something, that's where the 1980 reunions, you've seen that even people like Stuart Pearson that didn't stay that long, it's a special time and place for him when he comes back and talks about it. So he's not the club, you know, he was only there a couple of seasons, but that was special to them. And just say, you can go into your 90s and then you're on the rarity of Mark Noble and people like that have been, you know, with it since then.
You're right, and it's indicative of the game. I mean, you know more than anyone. You know, if a manager, if you get a manager for 3 years, you've done well with the manager. You know, and the players. So 3 years out of player, and their experience. You know, it's like, as you said, the testimonial. When I was interviewing Tony Gale, he said throughout his career, I think it was 10 years or whatever, 10, 11 years, every year was a testimonial. Literally every year was testimonial. And again, it's indicative of the modern game, isn't it? I mean, I can think of Mark Noble's testimonial. I can think of Vincent Company had one, if I remember, for Man City. I think Carragher, maybe and Neville, and that's not it. That's it. You know what I mean? It's like I think you're right, because there was so much loyalty in the earlier game, we'll say, in sort of the 80s and stuff. That's why that sort of friendship continues, because you were together for 10 years, or, you know, I mean, you know, there was 5 players like Pikey and that lot. They were 1980 and then they were also in 85, 86, you know, and you wouldn't get that in the modern game now. And you're right, someone like Trevor Brooking, for example, we went down, he stayed 3 years in essence the Championship. That would never happen today. You know, as soon as a club goes down, they're off ski, you know, and that's what happens. But you know, it means we can talk about the memories, and you know, so we've got memories to look back on, as you said, like, and it's been brilliant listening to your stories, Paul. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, particularly of Harry sniffing around there. He's had his lunch now.
Yeah, he's gone now. He must be looking for some more food.
Well, you got to give him another walk soon. Actually, he's probably gonna pee it down. He's gonna pee it down here. So yeah, I know what you mean. I've got to take my dog, but not as big as Harry. My dog's about that big. She's a teacup Yorkshire Terrier, so she doesn't do too bad out of it. Paul, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And obviously, thank you to everyone for watching as well. You know, like, share, subscribe. Again, very humble with all the comments that that people have said and how much they enjoy the content. Please keep them coming and suggest other people. And until next time, for me and Paul, take care, everyone. Stay safe, and see you all soon. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you.